Building Committee to order. Today is January 15th, and first agenda item this evening is approval of meeting minutes from December 18th, 2025. Any comments or changes or discussion involving the approval of those minutes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 18th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting of December 18th, 2025, as presented.
I have a motion and a second. We need to do roll call votes this evening, so I believe we have Jim Clancy on Zoom. Jim, can you hear us?
Aye. Yep.
Okay, you're an aye. Okay. Christine?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Aye.
Paul? Brendan?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Aye.
Dennis? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Brian? Aye.
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 Okay, that's not quite unanimous, but that's approved, so thank you all. Okay, the next item tonight is approval of monthly project invoices. I'll turn that over to left field.
Thank you, Pat. So we have a budget that's condensed, and again, the only change here is expended versus unspent. Other than that, the budget is, still the same budget. And if you can go to the next slide, please. So we have periodic invoices for left field for a value of $20,859. And then invoices from AI3, a periodic invoice of $71,875. And then two reimbursable services that were done, one for hazmat testing for $9,130, and then for soil characterization that was done on the property for $17,138, for a total invoice packet of $119,002. So we have a prepared motion, if someone would like to make that motion.
Okay, any comments, discussion related to the monthly invoice? Seeing none, I want to entertain a motion to approve that invoice.
Make a motion to approve the December 2025 invoice package number 8 in the amount of $119,002 as issued and presented.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second from Christine. Okay, Jim Clancy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aye.
Paul, Brendan,
Aye.
Dennis. Aye. Brian.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Schedule overview and school committee meeting update. I'll turn it over to David first, but I assume if there's a school committee meeting update, it will come from up here. So, what do we have?
I'm going to pass it over to AI3.
Oh, okay.
So we have just a singular slide here on the schedule, anticipated action items. You've seen this many times, but what we've updated now is a 4-month look ahead. So this includes the completion of this current PDP phase, as well as looking all the way through April to our next submission of the PSR, Preferred Schematic Report. So we're all here tonight, of course, to select some options to move into that PSR phase, as well as approve the PDP submission to the MSBA. February, by the time we come back and see you next month, we should have those handful of options that we're expecting to be carried through tonight in much more detail. So we'll be able to share a preview of that. Similarly, in March, those will continue to be developed. We'll be able to solicit some updated cost estimates at the beginning of March. Also an opportunity to maybe bring in another community forum to share the results of the PDP as well as progress on the PSR. And then April, of course, towards the end of the month will be our next MSBA submission. So at that point in time, the committee will actually have selected that singular option to move into schematic design.
Okay.
Next one.
Next item on the agenda is review of the ranking of design options scored by committee members.
I'll just add two.
Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Doesn't matter. So, yeah, just briefly, at the last school committee meeting, AI3 and Left Field were present to give a quick synopsis to the school committee, primarily pertaining to the program report, the educational program, because that's a component of the big submission that goes in at the end of January. So the committee was briefed on that and reviewed it, and ultimately did vote to support the educational program being submitted as part of the package, so we'll get into that formality later. The school committee did have an extensive discussion, and has been, I think, for some time, talking about the different options. And in the end, from their perspective, took a vote to kind of recommend or endorse to this group, just so you could get a sense of kind of what direction they were going in, unanimously kind of supporting a grade 4, 5, 6 option. So that was discussed at the school committee meeting and ultimately moved. And, as we get into our rankings and shortlisting of the schools, it actually kind of lines up well with the direction that a lot of the rankings have gone in. But we'll let that just kind of come up organically later on during the meeting. But that was the action at the last school committee meeting.
Excellent. Okay, the next item on the agenda is review of the ranking of design options scored by committee members, and I'll turn that over to Hamdi, I guess, or David.
Julie will continue.
Sure.
Okay, I don't know who put I thought you were putting the spreadsheet together, that's why I pointed at
I
you.
did, but there are a couple of slide decks before that spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
And it all goes hand in hand. So we just have, of course, you've seen this slide many times as well, as a summary of all of the options that this committee did consider. So still the 3 different sites as up for consideration. 14 total options. And so the evaluation matrix we're finally seeing as completed by this committee. So Hamdi did receive everyone's individual results and then tallied those up for the total scores at the bottom of the screen. And then on the next slide, we have the rankings as a result. So the concept with the highest score was A 2.2. The second score was B 1.2 on the Graniteville site, and then the third highest score was A 2.1, the 5 to 6 on the Parker site. Then the 3 options in blue would be options that the MSBA would likely require us to continue into the next phase, because they require at least 1 code upgrade and 1 add reno option to consider. So that is just looking at the snapshot of all of those 14 options being dwindled down to potentially 6 options. And we were curious, maybe if anyone who was filling out the evaluation matrix just wanted to share maybe where their guiding principles, how they ended up where they did. We certainly look for any kind of feedback.
Discussion. I'll start it, and, looking at it from a broad view at the different options, the largest option of a 5 through 8 configuration, just, it would be bigger than our high school, and at that grade level, not that I'm an expert like these folks, but I know enough to know that probably is not a good scenario. So those did not weigh heavily on mine, as well as the costs affiliated with doing such a large project. So the 5 through 8 configuration for me was not immediately off the table, but it was problematic right from the get-go. And then the code upgrades, knowing too much about this particular school, Ann McCarthy, because I've been involved in all the work there for the last 25 years. There's quite a bit of work that would need to be done to bring these schools up to an appropriate level of teaching and code and comfort and all of that type of thing. So I wasn't real big on any of those. I felt like knowing that it's going to be very difficult to get this project approved and get any other schools approved, I felt like if we could give as many kids the possibility to be in a new environment for a period of time was important. So I started to gravitate towards the 4 through 6, just because it was one of the more reasonable options. So cost-wise, grade configuration and everything else that goes with it, I landed right where number one landed, was where my high score was. So that's for my piece.
For my part, same thing on the 5 to 8, it's a big project, it's an expensive project. The 4 to 6 project, not only does it get us a new school, but it also allows us to relieve some of the overcrowding at the elementary school. And that's a big, from a school committee perspective, that's a big part of the whole project, is being able to move fourth graders up to another building, allow us more room, because that's really where we're filling a pinch right now, and it looks like we'll fill the pinch in the future. So if we could get a project that not only gets us a new school that benefits all the students and helps at the elementary level, I think we get our biggest bang for our buck with that kind of project, so.
I think for my scoring, I think the 1 was evident just because you have that growth need, and so the 4 to 6 just makes the most sense. So in the scoring that came out, I guess I did score the A2-3 a little higher, just because, granted, I know it's probably something that we can't afford, but the Graniteville site also had a lot of, there's a lot of traffic impacts, the location, the impacts of field. So for me, I guess that's where I was torn between the Graniteville site and then keeping things to the Parker site. But I also see that the A22 is just such a clear, such a really perfect opportunity. And when I was scoring, that just was the highest scoring for me. It was very clear. So I do think it's important for growth. I understand the concerns for the 5 to 8, but and then that's why I guess for the Graniteville sites, sometimes we're scoring a little lower just because it has more impacts, and lower MSBA eligibility too. So it's there's a higher, even though it's the 4 to 6, you're looking at a different eligibility. Well, I guess the demo would only be several $1 million, but still it's an added cost.
I think for me, one of the things that is really attractive about the 4 to 6, beyond giving room to the elementaries, I think it cuts down on, it's a pretty short transition right now. 5-6 school, they enter all the fourth grades. They just start to gel, and then they have 1 year, then they're already starting to think now in January about transitioning again. So having that 3-year span, I think, is educationally really appropriate. And I think those 3 particular grades are developmentally very appropriate to be grouped together. So from my lens, it was clearly the best choice.
I wholeheartedly agree with everyone's statements, and I think the only thing I would add, somewhat similar to Christine, while I grab this one, is the one thing that kind of made me cautious with the Graniteville site is the lack of field space, or the lack of green space that it also just takes away, because there's no way to really replicate that. And not only would that be impactful for, the park or whatever grade level configuration ends up going in there, but it also would impact the high school as well, because the high school sports teams and athletics teams and even youth leagues in the town utilize Graniteville as a site, and there's just not a lot of places to replicate that. So I agree with everyone else's statements, and that was just another little deciding factor for me to really be looking more favorably at the options on the Parker site. I think we just have a cool opportunity to do something there.
Yeah, my perspective on it is I agree with the first 2 selections, new construction at the Parker site for grades 4 through 6 and grade 4 through 6, number 2 at Graniteville site. What I'm uncomfortable with and is number 3, being the 5-6 at the Parker site. And it's because of what was discussed earlier. You're not going to be able to address that option. It's not going to help with the space issue at the elementary schools. So if that becomes, it remains in play, then that concerns me for the community in the short, medium, and long term, because you're not going to come back with another project, after this and say, oh, by the way, we've got a space problem, we got to deal with the elementary schools. That's why my third one, and my suggestion is, the third one, I think, is the new construction of a 5 through 8 school, because that would enable the community to address the elementary school issues in a manner, but it also goes to Josh's issue, is you're not transitioning the kids out in 2 years. So whether we keep McCarthy as an elementary school or something, it addresses the long-term space needs of the community. And I guess my concern is that you'd hate to come out of this, and if the ended path is, oh, we went with the 5 through 6 school, then I think given the two choices, I would rather go to the 5 through 8 versus the 5 through 6 school. And that's the only part that leaves me uneasy with this ranking that's on the board right now, is as a third choice, of the three that are there, that one leaves me uneasy as opposed to that, because I think that imperils the community going forward. Politically, is it a viable attainment? Probably not. But if you look at some of that criteria in terms of maximizing state reimbursement, the cost issues and so forth, you don't want to be looking back in 20 years and saying, geez, I wish back in the year, 2026, 27, the town had done the bigger school as opposed to a 5 through 6 school. So again, I'm not trying to dissuade people from the 4 through 6, which I think appears to be the consensus. It's just that third option of the 5-6 being the only other alternative other than 4-6, as opposed to the 5 through 8, leaves me uneasy.
Points.
It's not that far apart, yeah.
Yeah, if I may, I also had the A23 as my third option for many of the reasons that Paul echoed. I'm concerned about doing a smaller project and not having other space available and having other issues going down the road. And I kind of think back to the construction of the Chelmsford High School, which is the most recent project that was done in Chelmsford, where that school building committee kept making adjustments down and taking things away from what that school was. And I went through the school system. I was in that school. I wish they had gone and done the bigger things that would have provided for more investment in the community later on down the road. I think I'm concerned that the 5-6 is just a little bit too short-sighted.
If I can jump in for a second, I don't disagree with any of the statements, and I think the sweet spot, from the school administration, I think the school committee was clear as well. Like the 4-6 is truly the option that we feel is the probably the right option. I think it's from a financing standpoint in the end, it's the sweet spot. I think I get worried about the 5 to 8 financially. Like I also don't want to put a project forward that's just not going to pass, right? Because that just sets us back dramatically. But just the cost associated with that is huge. If it is, A2, 3 on, new construction on, say, Parker, the Parker site, let's just say, even though McCarthy could become an extra elementary school, that would help with the enrollment needs, but you still had a significant dollar amount in there to upgrade McCarthy to make it code compliant and usable as an elementary school, because you've got to think everything in that building is made for bigger people. So there's still extra cost in the end. So we would kind of be still going back to the town for more. What was interesting to me, like truly, when you looked at the scoring rubric, there was nothing like offensive in the scoring rubric to the 5-6. It just didn't, in the end, truly provide that much value in one project to the community. There was no reason to really like downgrade the scoring on it, to have it not be, scored in comparison to the rubric. But, in the end, I just, for all practical purposes with the MSBA, the concern would be if this preferred program goes in next week, let's say, and let's say we knocked off the 5 to 8 and the 5 to 6, and we just say we want to go forward with the 4-6 option. I just don't know if that time they're going to say, well, you didn't do enough due diligence, you're rushing too quick to get to this, and then they kick it back to us, and that kind of throws us out of cycle.
But what would you think should be the fallback option if it's not 4 through 6? Should it be 5-6 or 5-8? What do you think should be the fallback option? I think that's.
I don't think it should be either, to be honest
Well,
with
we
you.
have to submit one.
Well, I personally, in the end, I think it's the 4-6. I think
No, but I'm saying if we're submitting the 4-6 options, but we're also submitting another grade configuration option. And which grade configuration option do you think is better to submit? 5.6 or 5.8 as sort of, the
Secondary.
secondary option?
The number 3 or
Can we,
The number three option, yeah.
where do you guys come down on this? I mean, what's MSBA looking for? Are they looking for a 1, 2, 3 on the submission next week? Like first choice, second choice, third choice?
No, they're looking for a short list, so.
Okay.
There was 13 options here, 14? 14. 14. So there's 14 options, and the intent is to turn over all the stones. So you looked at 14 stones, and now you have to, we can't continue to study 14, so there's a short list. And as the slide indicates, there's an MSBA requirement. You have to do a code upgrade, you have to do at least one ad reno. Now, with the multiple enrollment options here on the table, it can get a little bit complicated because the MSBA deems it as you need to do certain minimum for each enrollment option. However, if there's a desire or a pleasure or will of the committee to just take an enrollment option off the table, then that is what could be presented to the MSBA as part of the PDP. Now, the MSBA can come back and they can, mandate that we still study something, but that's up to the MSBA's purview to do that. But the idea is no. So there's no hierarchy when we submit this for the PDP. It's just simply, we looked at 14, and now we'd like to hypothetically continue with 6 of them with further study.
Could you continue with 5 if you just accept the 1 and 2 and the 3 MSBA required?
So
I mean, you still would have the 5 to 6 option, but under required. So you do the
So Christina, you saying get rid of
3.
3, which would be A 2.1.
6 option would be renovation.
Yeah, yep. Because we still have what, well, the MSBA, let me test this through. The MSBA would say, are you studying a new 5 to 6?
No.
So that's where I think the MSBA would come back. Because they'll say, well, you're looking at a reno 5 to 6, why aren't you looking at a new 5 to 6?
Even with these options, like with these 3 options, I'm sorry, with these 6 options, I think it makes sense if the committee remove 5 to 8 options. Otherwise, they will come back and they will ask the same question. Why didn't you include anything about grade 5 to 8 options?
Yes, I mean, looking at this data and just listening to the committee, it seems like there's no appetite for the 4-grade 5 to 8 option for various reasons.
I have a lesser appetite for a 5.6. That's the problem, Dave.
Got it?
Can we take that off the table?
The MSBA.
Can we go in with
requires-
5 options?
Could we get a 7th option? I mean, can we, or is that just not doing it enough?
Or do you move the 3rd option to the 5 to 8? Or I guess are we required to study a new construction 5 to 6? Or what if the numbers had played out that the top 3 were the 4, 6, and the 5, 8? Would we have been able to present those 6 options?
Well, and we'll just add that the 6 is what we put out there in terms of just ranking 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
and then the MSBA required. So we certainly could do more, we could do less. So don't feel like you have to reach the quota of 6 options.
When you have the MSBA required, is it mandatory that it's those 3, or could we do option A13? Like, because that actually scored higher than A11.
Right.
Like, so then you have a 5.8 reno. Not that these are the ideal options, but is that more advantageous or a better option if it were to be selected by them would we rather a 5-8 reno or a 5-6 reno?
I would anticipate that as long as the ad reno enrollment options match the new construction enrollment options for parity, you could do all 4, 6, 5, 8 and eliminate 4 through 6 and 5 through 8 and eliminate the ad reno 5 to 6 and the new 5 to 6. But you would likely want to match, if you're doing 2 in the ad reno per enrollments, do the same for the new construction.
So you could do, you move A11 to A13, and you move the 3 to the A23.
Right.
Yeah, and then
The
your apples to
complexity here is
apples.
that there's 3 enrollment options, and there's minimum requirements.
But what's
for each-
driving this whole thing is the enrollment issues in the elementary grade levels.
Correct.
And 5-6 doesn't do that, doesn't address that. And to me, that's a fatal flaw.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we would include that as opposed to one that addresses that,
mean-
even though it's huge.
Again, with the will of the committee, if the committee wants to remove the 5-6 option, the PDP could be submitted that way, but we can't guarantee what the MSBA will come back with. And I would also, because it's dealing with enrollment, I would also ask that the school committee, render an opinion as well and have it put on the record. And the next school committee meeting would be the 20th. So, with the enrollment, there's a little bit of a dynamic where is the governance from the building committee or is the governance from the school committee when it comes to enrollment? And in my opinion, I think it's both because it's enrollment. And once the enrollment is solidified, no disrespect to the school committee, but the decisions are now the building committee.
But the school committee has expressed their preference for 4 through 6, which is the same preference
They,
for
they,
this committee.
they did.
But I don't think the school committee has expressed a secondary preference. He's saying they need to make the decision between if you had to go to Plan B, would you choose 5-6 versus 5-8? Do we need that vote?
I would just recommend that hypothetically, as this meeting continues, if the outcome is that the 4-grade option is off the table and the 2-grade option is off the table, that, the school committee would,
I don't see a
comment as
scenario
well.
where we take both of them off the table.
What if-
Okay.
Going 4-6. It's a question of what is the other one that we put on there? Is it 5-6 or is it 5-8? So I think that's what it's got to be. It's clear that the reference is 4-6, new, Reno.
Yep.
But the question is if there's another grade configuration, which one is it?
So,
And, again, sorry.
I mean, so we're trying to accomplish more than just building a new school here because we're overcrowded at the elementaries. And I assume that we have the opportunity to write something up as to where our thinking is. And our thinking is really much broader than just a 5-6, a 4 through 6 school or a 5 through 8 school. It's much more preserving options to eliminate overcrowding at the elementary schools. So I think what I'm hearing and maybe where we're heading is preserving that as an option. So 5-6 does not do that for us in any capacity that I'm aware of, that it would preserve our, our ability to go and eliminate some overcrowding at the elementary school. So, maybe it comes down to, 4 through 6 and then one option for the 5 through 8 so that we can preserve that. If they're going to come back and want that expanded grade configuration, so.
So a couple of different things are at play here. So the 5-6 was kind of still in the mix because we still have to do, 5-6 is what we currently have. So when we're going through this whole application, we're trying to document what we're currently doing. I think we all agree, school committee and this committee, the 4-6 is the option to go with. It's still this committee's decision. It's just a matter of when. So let's, for argument's sake, let's say the 5 to 8 did come off the table. I totally understand what you're saying about that's not a good solution if the other one didn't pale. But what this is an exercise in doing is kind of whittling down and making our justification to MSBA about why we would want to go forward with a particular project. If we submitted and said, all right, 5-8 we want off the table, and then it's either the 5-6 or the 4 to 6, we're still making that decision between now and May. It's not like the MSBA is going to come back and say, well, you have to do the 5 to 6. We're only going to approve you for the 5 to 6. It's us showing that we've actually gone through a process to kind of whittle down what our options are. If we take the 5, 6 out of the mix and say we want to just go forward with the other two options, that's fine. But between now and then, in the end, I see us getting to the 4 to 6. I don't see us getting stuck with the 5 to 8 if we don't want to do that, and I don't see us getting stuck with the 5, 6 because it doesn't accomplish anything either. I just think if we actually just went forward to the MSBA next week with just the 4, 6, I could see them pushing back and saying, we haven't spent enough time going through all of this. And, that's just, but it's our decision in the end, which to go forward with. We're not going to get stuck with doing the 5, 6 or doing the 5 to 8. It's a process of kind of elimination as we go through this.
I'm just concerned, looking at the probable estimated total project costs for the 4-grade 5 through 8 for the ad reno and new at McCarthy Site C. It ranges from $383 million to $432 million, which it seems like that wouldn't even pass.
I agree. Do we want to do a, 212 million or 200 million 5-6 school that doesn't address the space needs in the community, then we're hamstrung. Because the other option,
I don't disagree.
because they'll come out with the different options in the final options, right? We'll come back in 6 weeks or whatever with these options, and the lowest cost option will not be the preferred option as well, right? And we know what Chelmsford does historically, right? I mean,
I've been on all those campaigns, I know.
Yeah,
full well.
exactly. So, I'd much rather be basically saying, hey, look, we've got a space problem in the elementary schools that's bringing this project forward. And we've looked at all the grade configurations, and the ones that are viable to address the space problems are 4 through 6 or 5 through 8. And the 5 through 8 one costs $400 million. We're not advocating for that. We're advocating for the 4 through 6 that costs $272 million. As opposed to saying, well, here's what we're looking at. We've got a 4 through 6 that's $272 million, but we can just replace Parker and Kine for $200 million. What do you want to do? We know what, right? Pat, you've lived it. I came in the wake of it, and John, you've lived
It
it.
does frame it as a more advantageous comparison if the 4 to 6 is cost-wise appearing to be less expensive.
Based upon the issue, what's driving this is the enrollment issue. If we didn't have the enrollment issue, we couldn't do it. But my concern is, you don't want to be asking for $200 million and it doesn't address the issue. And then what's the community coming back to saying, okay, great, you got a new Parker Middle School. What are you doing with the overcrowding elementary schools in an era where the state's pushing housing? Whether it's, MBTA zoning or ADUs, everything else, everything is housing, and we're going to be overcrowded.
And we have started building quite a few ADUs. We were updated Monday night
And
in
that's
that
what the-
meeting,
that's
and
what the
we
push is
have
going
several
forward.
ADUs coming in, and it's just it's gonna grow.
Does it make sense to add a study? Like, I guess,
That's what I
to
don't know.
kind of get through the process and does it make sense? Because it seems like if we try to change it or eliminate grades, that might be a little more back and forth with MSBA. So if you add A23,
Do you add A23 and drop A21, or do you take A23 and keep A21? I think that's the question.
but then if you add A23, do you have to add A13?
So I don't anticipate the MSBA, and I definitely heed left field's warnings, and maybe you guys could reflect on this. But I don't anticipate MSBA coming back if we submit two enrollments, options that are within only 2 enrollments. I don't anticipate MSBA coming back and saying you have to now still continue to investigate one. I think what the goal here would be that we are eliminating at least one of the enrollments and moving forward with 2. But I think it's open to the committee to decide which 2 those are.
If we're eliminating the enrollment, I think we're eliminating 5-6 because it'll get the job done for everything else.
Yep.
That's my concern. It becomes less palatable for everyone in the community, aside from the cost of the project. The cost is going to be what the cost is going to be, and that'll be, as I think Paul said, an advantageous scenario where we say the 5 through 8 is going to cost way more than the 4 through 6. So let's steer towards that. That's why we made the selection. But all the selections we were looking at were going to solve a bigger problem.
So we would essentially take the 3 columns that are shaded in light blue, baby blue, and move them all the way to the right. So we'd be removing the 2-grade option, 5, 6, and just moving forward with A 2.1, A 2.2, B 1.2, and then X2, C 1 point. No? Okay, then I'm hearing wrong.
So just an idea. Maybe we can just eliminate site B and site C. Keep site A, so you still have all your options, and you eliminated at least half of the options. Would that be also?
Yeah, if you do
Better.
basically add A13 and add A23.
And remove B1, 2.
B1, 2.
Yes.
Right.
And remove
Right,
A1.
then you're only looking at one site, which
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier too.
Easier for the design team.
Design team, right.
And you
exactly.
still have your all options.
Because you can fit the 4-grade on the Parker.
Yeah.
It's an extra story.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. So then that eliminates you having to deal with looking at the code, everything at McCarthy and at Graniteville, which I think makes it easier.
And eliminate the discussion with the MSBA, because they may come back and tell us, no, you can't drop 5.8 or 5.6.
We don't know.
You don't know that yet.
At 5, 6, but just at the 2 sites as opposed to you dropping the sites.
Yeah, so basically just keep site A and drop everything else.
Just one question for left field and AI3. If we do that at the Parker site, right, if we drop site B and site C, but we have a 5 to 8 in the mix, are they going to come back to us at all and say, we need to do the code or the add reno at the McCarthy site C?
They may.
I know none of us want to do that, but I'm just,
But again, we can spell it out as to why we've eliminated that in the report that goes into them and give them all the reasons why we think that, it's a congested site. It's just this, there's
Correct.
lots of reasons.
I mean, we can't predict what the MSBA is going to come back with. And if we do what Hamdi suggested, we take site B and C off the table, but MSBA comes back and we have to, continue with some studies at the McCarthy site, organically through the process of the next phase, the PSR, they would come off. So,
Just out of curiosity, is Site C going to the McCarthy site where the application was to do the Parker site? Like, is that even an option?
so,
I mean, if that's the case, wouldn't we just say, like, let's renovate the high school?
well, so what would happen is your entry into the eligibility period with the MSBA, the catalyst was Parker.
Yeah,
But
but we would do
before,
nothing to Parker in those options.
that's okay. We've done projects where a certain school was a feeder, but because of different enrollment options, the school ended up being built at a different school's location. That happens. It's just, for this project, the Parker was the vehicle to get in, and then through conversations with the MSBA, the enrollment options expanded, and, that's how McCarthy got tagged in.
What does next Thursday's meeting look like as far as, how is it structured? Does the town get to speak at all, or is this just you folks presenting our packet of our studies and so on?
Oh, the submission, there's no meeting.
It's just a submission, it's not a
It's just a
meeting?
submission, correct.
Okay, so everything has to be in writing as to what our thinking is?
Correct, and between Vivian and myself, we will memorialize this discussion in meeting minutes. And the meeting minutes will be included as part of the PDP packet. Now, the meeting minutes will be included as a draft.
Okay, all right.
Paper. They're going to ask us questions back in paper. We're going to have to respond in writing. It's not a presentation or anything like that.
Okay, so there's no verbal communication.
We will,
Within
we will, yeah, I was gonna say we will just put a cover letter and prepare all the PDP package and submit it to the MSBA on 22nd.
And then within 21 days, they respond.
They come back, yeah.
And then we have 14 days to respond to their response.
If memory serves me correct, the difference at Parker site between the grade configurations is just different stories of the school.
Predominantly.
Right,
Yes,
so,
one change might
yeah.
be that we would include an auditorium at the 5 through 8 level,
Right.
but otherwise, it's
Right.
primarily
so
just
all,
getting
all,
together.
I think all the more reason, like I said, let's just submit site A and then, you know, and then if they push back saying, look.
See where the cards
this is-
fall.
This is driven by enrollment and we think that that's where, you know, everything else drove us to the Parker site.
By adding 5-8 back into the mix for Parker, I guess if they come back from McCarthy, I think maybe on that cover letter submission, I mean, if you look at the scoring, but there's just so many reasons why we wouldn't select McCarthy. Congestion, there's a lot.
They can only come back for X2.
X2,
code
I see,
issue.
the code, oh, because it's a, yeah.
That's
Correct,
not-
yeah.
That's not gonna help anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, thank you, Hamdi, getting us there.
So,
Just so I'm clear,
yeah,
what we're talking about now is just keeping,
Site A.
but the 5-6, the 4-5-6, and the 5-8 all in play, playing those out just at the Parker site.
Yeah.
And obviously the code upgrade and things like that.
So the number 2 would move to the right of number 1.
And
Yes.
the
Correct.
addition of
so,
2.3.
yeah, so it becomes
Yes.
7 options
So
instead
you're
of 6.
basically, you're still investigating everything at Site A.
Correct.
And you eliminate Site B and Site C.
3 would just 5-6?
Yeah, because all it is a different, it's just a
just add
different
a
story of the school, so it doesn't, you know, it's just.
And they're probably gonna require it too, because if they're doing a ad reno, you said you might have to do a new construction.
We will say it is a little more complicated with the 5-8 because then the 7th and 8th grade class sizes, for example, vary from the 4 through 6. So there's size differences, organization differences. Nothing that we can't resolve in the next phase, but it will be a little more complicated.
Do you see an advantage to removing the other 2 sites?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're not going to wholesale remove a grade level, does it make sense to remove those 2 sites?
I mean,
It does.
yeah.
And it
what-
can be substantiated as to why we don't think either of those sites work. You know, we just, because we'd never replaced the Graniteville fields.
And I think some.
We don't have any place to go.
From folks supports that,
Yeah.
that approach, for sure.
Yeah.
And with the Graniteville and McCarthy, which we haven't gotten to the slide yet, but there's certain costs that are part of there's certain cost drivers that are beyond the values that I mentioned of 400 million, even below the line. And as you say, Pat, it's, you know, to replicate those fields. And even if the town had the money, does the town have the real estate?
No, we don't.
And what I'm hearing is you don't have the real estate.
Well, none of that's reimbursable either, right?
That's correct. None of it's reimbursable. So, I mean, what I'm hearing is we get rid of Site B and Site C.
Also the traffic, because I think the way that the entrance to the high school, I mean, if you go, I mean, I know there's different timing, but it would just be a lot more, I mean, I'm sure it could be figured out, but the congestion, that was part of, I think it was like site access. And so to me, Parker was the favorable site access.
And and we'd still be submitting a package to the MSBA that has all enrollments.
Yeah.
And as Hamdi said, the wild card from the MSBA would be, they may come back and require us to do X2, which we expected, but we're not sure.
In your experience, if the committee chose to move forward with 2 enrollment options that were different from their current enrollment option, do you see the MSBA requesting that they still study something at their existing enrollment?
Probably. And during the course of the PSR phase, we will have to submit the enrollment certification, changing the enrollment, which, is kind of a packet within itself. So I would strongly recommend that while it doesn't do anything for the future of Chelmsford, to move forward or to continue studying a 5 to 6, because that was the current grade configuration, I feel that, yeah, MSBA would expect you to still keep it in the mix. So,
But I think we're keeping everything copacetic here and keeping our options open at the same time while giving them the opportunity to weigh back in. And, if they came back and said, we'd like you to look closer at a 5 through 8. And again, I think a lot of it will have to do in how we write things up, because 5 through 8 would give us a school bigger than our high school at that grade level, and that just doesn't make sense. So, but I think we're not eliminating it. We're keeping our options open and leaving them a few more options. Agreed. So I can't see them coming back.
But at this point in time, in the community, can we say, we're looking at all options at the Parker School site. Bingo. All grade options and all options at the Parker School site. So we're not confusing people with McCarthy and Graniteville and everything else. And then, as you said, within a couple of months, by the end of April or May, we'll have a pathway. So I don't see the downside of doing that, of just saying, let's advance site A and then see what the response is. And if they make us do X2, do X2. But that's not going to be an option, we know, at the end anyway, under any scenario.
your collective wisdom? The A3? I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah, we're definitely, I'm definitely good with that. And I think this is a great outcome of the conversation and the collective thoughts of everybody. And I think this is a really good path forward into the next phase. Personally, I think it does provide a lot of opportunity with the development of each option and having that one singular site to focus on with all the enrollment opportunities. Yeah, for sure.
And
It's the Goldilocks method. The one site, this site's too big, this option's too small, the middle one's just right.
That's right. Paul, I'm looking at the numbers, which you'll see shortly, but, this, for new construction on Site A Parker, the enrollment option of 5 to 8 is $100 million more than the 3 grade. And to go back to what you're saying is that it's just right, it's right in the middle. And it solves your immediate problems, your kind of middle road problems, and your long-term problems. And no one can say you picked the most expensive.
Exactly.
And as Dr. Lang said, this is ultimately your decision. Like, the MSBA is not making this decision for you. They just want to make sure that you're evaluating all the options. And the community does too. Everybody does. We want to make sure that it's the right approach as a professional team. So that's why I think the conversation has led to a really good place in selecting this site with all the options.
Yeah, it's correct. The MSBA, they'll control how many you study, but they won't select it.
Right.
All right, so let me just clarify before I make any more. So we're doing X1, A11, A12, are we including A13?
Yes.
Yes?
Everything's under Site
Okay,
A.
A21, A22, A23.
Everything under Site A.
Everything.
Under Site A.
Everything in Parker.
Everything under Site A.
Site A.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do have the cost-related slides that come after this too, just to inform. And I don't know if we want to move to the next slide.
Yeah, they sent this out when we were doing our scoring.
Yes, yep, yeah, so we sent this out, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but, and then if anyone had any questions on the estimated costs, it sounded like it was understood, but we did want to point out, and I guess it's moot now that we're eliminating the sites B and C, but just reiterate that that would then involve a series of enabling projects that are added costs to that total project cost in yellow. So for example, building new on Graniteville would not include costs to then demo the Parker School or do any kind of development at that site. But I think that sounded like in the discussion that was pretty clear. And then the cost per square foot is another line item we just wanted to bring attention to. So the average cost of the sort of all of the new options landed somewhere between $900, $950 a square foot. The MSBA does keep this cost analysis of their projects, and this is projected out to 2028, which would be the potential year of when your new project would start construction. And so you can see that the projected new construction cost, based on the MSBA's data, of cost per square foot is a little under $900 per square foot, $889, based on their current projects. So just as like a gut check, that cost estimating slide for all of the options that this committee is considering falls right within that range.
And you can go, just by the way, I don't know if I'm speaking loud enough, but anybody can go to the Massachusetts School Building Authority's website. This is an interactive slide on the website, and anybody can go to their website and select cost, I think it's cost data, construction cost data, and look at all the projects within the last 12, 14 years and where it falls within the ranges. And you can see the collective average within each year and how that relates to the overall projects. And as Julie said, it's fantastic because we are within that. We're within the median or the average cost per square foot for all of these projects with a slight range and with a target of 2028 construction start.
If anyone has trouble finding it, you can shoot Hanvi and I an email. We can send you the link.
And then I think if we just go to the next slide.
Want to go to the next slide?
Oh, you want to go to the next slide, sorry.
No problem. I just wanted to point out here too, so as we're talking about costs and the requirement to continue that base repair option, you'll see that, something upwards of $110 million just to bring the existing Parker up to code without addressing any of the educational deficiencies. And considering a new construction option of, for example, the 4 to 6 at $272 million. So, half of that cost going towards a base repair wouldn't even accomplish anything new, whereas you could have an entirely new building for, 200-something million. So it really starts to close the gap, and that will be an important point to make in future sort of community presentations about how, that amount of money that would need to be spent just to bring a building up to code versus a project that does address all of the educational inequities in the district. And so then on that slide as well, we've grayed out the options that weren't within those 6 on the ranks of the evaluation matrix. But of course, this should reflect what the committee's feelings are based on discussion tonight.
Yeah, I think, I agree. The slide deck will be updated to reflect it, because we don't want anyone in the future looking at meeting minutes and then looking at the deck and they don't align.
Okay, great.
Motion or?
Is there any further discussion on this? Is everybody comfortable with where we're heading? I think it's the only way to preserve our options and give them really what they want. I think many of us came in tonight thinking that we were going to just eliminate 5 through 8 altogether, but having had this discussion, I think this is in my opinion, this is the best path forward, so if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the building committee, having reviewed the alternative options presented by the project team, together with the evaluation criteria and comparative scoring applied to these options, hereby recommends that the following alternatives be advanced for continued evaluation during the preferred schematic report, PSR phase of the project. Said alternative options have been designated as X1, A11, A12, A13, A21, A22, A23.
Can I get a copy of that? 'Cause
Yes.
Dan lost it.
It's a little messy, but I gotta see it.
I'll just take a snapshot of it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments or discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Aye.
Tim? Aye. Paul?
Aye.
Brandon? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That's unanimous. Okay, thanks, everybody.
It's a good thing, Dave, you got a whole committee in unanimity. You got a building committee in unanimity, which you don't get in every community.
Do not. We do not.
Which we do have one more vote and approval tonight as well, so hopefully that would also be in unanimity, but Tori will just give a brief update of where the PDP report stands, and then we can move into the motion.
Yes, exactly. So at this point, I think it's actually approaching 1,900 pages, so very significant, and will provide for you to be able to, thank you, David, for you to be able to review. We did want to highlight, if you just have nothing going on for a few days. But we just have the table of contents here for you to take a look at. We did highlight a few sections that are particularly important. So under 3.1.2, we do have a summary of the educational process of collaboration, which were those visioning sessions that took place with your educational leadership, as well as some community members. So if you want to see sort of what was shown to them, as well as what everyone's thoughts were, we have all of that presented there in the document, as well as the full educational program, which I think is around 85 pages as well. And that has been finalized with approval as well. Another section to draw your attention to is section 3.1.6, which is the preliminary evaluation of alternatives. And this is where we delve more deeply into each individual option that we've discussed here tonight. All 14 of them are in there, as well as the conceptual cost estimates that have been in front of you as well. So if you want to kind of go back into those options as well, those are all of the options that were included in the PDP are in that section, as well as many appendices, many of which are hundreds of pages. But if you want more information, for example, about the traffic impact analysis or anything, that will also be available there as well.
A lot of that information's already on the webpage, right, that was sent out? Because I did see, I think it was a traffic impact.
Yeah.
So I've already seen some of it.
Yes, yeah, a lot of it has been in front of you already. And there will be a few items, like David mentioned. The meeting minutes from tonight, for example, will go in a draft form before they've been voted on, and a few other items like that will be included as well.
Yeah, so we don't present that in terms of this is new information. You guys have seen it sort of piecemeal, but at this point, it's just been formatted into a report.
Exactly.
There's a local action, local action certification that Hamdi will be collecting. And I believe Dr. Lang, Paul Cohen, and it would be Dennis? So we'll send that document around by DocuSign. So there's a few things we have to do next week that is like cleanup and signatures.
Where in that report, other than meeting minutes, do we get to express our philosophical approach to this? Or, our top-down approach? How do we convey what this committee just discussed, other than just meeting minutes? Or do we not do that at all?
I'd have to say it's the meeting minutes as well as the educational program. And my opinion is that the MSBA's goal is to review the PDP to make sure that the existing conditions and analysis was done, and the committee looked at a broad breadth of options, and that they shortlisted the options within the policies of the MSBA. And the MSBA really is going to look at the PSR package, which we'll be submitting in the next few months, once you select the option. So I think it's the next phase that the MSBA is really going to refine and look at, the rationale on the option that you landed on. And as part of the PSR, there's more areas to put the committee's views on, the rationale.
There will be a presentation done for the MSBA in likely mid-May, where members of the administration or this committee could be part of that presentation, and it is another opportunity to just advocate for the results of the PSR. So you could advocate for the option that the group selected.
Because the PDP submission is reviewed by MSBA staff, and then the PSR, when you essentially say, we are going with this option. As Julie indicated, we have to meet with a facilities assessment subcommittee. It's made up of some MSBA staff members, as well as some board members from the MSBA's board. And as Julie said, you're invited to participate. I highly recommend that you can attend that meeting, because they like to, we can't advocate. It's, you guys have to advocate, that's the option we want, and this is why. Because then it goes to the board, and the MSBA board accepts that option to then move into schematic.
I would just add two comments, supporting and also expanding on the thoughts, David and Julie's thoughts. There are two locations in the next document, the next phase, the PSR submission to the MSBA, where your voice will be included, that is poignant and identified clearly. That's the executive summary, right at the beginning of the document. Will be outlined in the process and the outcomes and the reasons for the outcome, as well as within the option itself. So we have to describe why that option, it will be described throughout the process in the various documents, but collecting that into a cohesive, thoughtful narrative as to why that option is the selected option for the group, for the community, for the boards. So those two locations, you'll see that occur.
Motion for the submission, or?
I think we're ready to move to item 7, which is the vote to authorize Left Field and AI3 to submit the PDP to MSBA contingent upon a successful vote, successful vote from the school committee Tuesday night. But yeah, I think we can move to that vote, unless there's any other discussion.
Okay, I make a motion that the building committee authorize AI3 and Left Field on behalf of the building committee submit the Parker Middle School preliminary design, program design PDP submission to the MSBA, review and consideration by the MSBA.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Clancy?
Right here.
Brandon did. Jim, you are an aye?
I'm an aye, yep.
Okay,
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is an update on evaluation of existing conditions.
Sure, so we just have 4 slides that are updates to reports that we hadn't received by the time we presented here last. So we did receive the geotechnical investigation for Parker Middle School. This was a result of all those borings that were taken. And really that report just informs some proposed foundations and footings designs for a new project. So in the next phase, there will be narratives written by our structural engineers that really expand upon, the structural design as a result of this geotechnical information that we found. So that was really the result of all of the borings that ended up informing this geotechnical report. We also received the results of the soils investigation. So when the borings were taken, they were to inform that geotechnical investigation, but then samples of the soils were also taken and tested from each of those borings. It did result that 2 of the borings were reporting levels of acetone that were higher than acceptable, so that was considered contaminated at those 2 borings. What is sort of interesting is that in digging through the environmental site assessment from the Parker site, we did find that there's this aerial imagery from 1963 that shows a maybe temporary road that cut across the site, and it actually coincides with the exact locations of the 2 borings that were found to be contaminated. So really just a theory that, that could have had some association with that, the results of that soil investigation. But as a result, we need to understand the scope of that contaminated soil more. So we've actually already coordinated with the digging rigs to complete additional borings around the 2 borings that were found to be contaminated. So that work is being done starting tomorrow. It'll move into the middle of next week. We'll likely have the results of that additional investigation in a couple weeks. So at this point, we'll be able to determine next steps following the results of that additional investigations.
Julie, if I could just comment that the discovery of acetone was about how many feet down?
7? Was it
Yeah,
5 or
so
7?
I think at B9, which is the red boring that's more middle of the site, was as deep as 7 to 9 feet.
So there's no health concern to the public on the property?
Yes, thank you.
So.
And acetone being found on something like this, on soil investigations, is almost unheard of to a certain degree. Is that correct?
Yes.
That road might have had something to do with it. It might have been, as you suggested earlier, it might have just been something when they were constructing the original building or something
Yes,
like
because
that.
that was a construction laydown area as well when they were constructing the current Parker building, so kind of unknown exactly the origins of it.
We had previewed this with Christine and DPW just in an effort to maybe find out if there was other historical information. I know you had mentioned that, there's maybe using that area to wash trucks, which seems really
thinking
plausible.
that maybe that was a equipment laydown area, and if people in the 60s used acetone to clean equipment, this is a thought. I have no proof, but that's just a theory. We were trying to come up with theories. Especially it being 5 to 7 feet, maybe that soil got buried. And then the other interesting piece that when we saw this was, if you look at this aerial, the highway is just being constructed. And so question we had is, was this a lay down area for the town or for Mass DOT? I have no idea, but because if you look, I don't know why that is exactly cutting across that property, but look at all the access to the highway and there's no loam and seed, and I don't even know if it was open at that point. It was in the 60s. So just a thought is it was a lay down area of some sort. It could have been the Parker School, could have been more involved. But we actually looked to see we did a little digging, and this is what we found.
I don't know who mentioned it, but probably the implementation of the Hall Road was because trucks could not make the turn.
It was a
So
tougher turn, yeah.
they
There's a
they
lot
made
more
their own
soil
road.
moving between whatever, that, just that, as far as that building of the highway. Just as a thought, we have we came up with theories.
So it does require some additional investigations, but it's actually really good timing at this early phase of the project to have discovered something like that, and we'll be able to have an accurate price for remediating that. The hazmat report for McCarthy Middle School also came in. Really, this is no different than what the report from Parker reflected, where, being that of a building of very similar vintage, There was asbestos-containing materials found there, but they were contained, non-friable, and therefore do not pose a hazard to the daily occupants. Similarly with lead paint, of course, being a pre-1970s building. Something to pay attention to here would just be that total estimated cost for remediation of all of the hazardous materials at $3.5 million. That cost was included in the total cost estimates spreadsheet. So any of the options that included McCarthy Middle School as well as the code upgrade option took that $3.5 million into consideration and was part of that project cost. And then lastly, we also received the environmental site assessment report for McCarthy. This again is, looking into historical use, site conditions. There weren't any soil samples or site samples taken as part of the McCarthy investigation. And really the only recommendations were that, if a project were to take place there, then we would do investigations at that time. And then looking to our upcoming events, of course, we've talked about next week will be our submission to the MSBA, which really at this point is just a digital copy of that report that goes to the MSBA. And then we were looking to get confirmation on the next building committee meeting in February. And based on February vacation, it seemed like probably that last Thursday of the month made the most sense.
The only thing is I know town meeting prep, but you said that would probably start later. Or not?
Is that the week? The week after. So the school obviously, if we were going to stick with our traditional third Thursday, it would be the 19th, which is the Thursday of school vacation week. And the thought is that presents too many conflicts, so we'll go the week after.
Right, yeah, we didn't want to assume that the committee would be available that week.
I'm going to be out of town on the 26th.
How about the 19th?
I'm here until the 25th.
Right. Does the 19th create a problem? And most of us are, other than Thursday.
I'm around.
What's that?
We're working, we're not on vacation. We're not off that week.
And so does
I'm
the-
fine.
Yeah, does
I
it-
am on vacation, but it doesn't matter.
But does the 19th create a problem for the committee or for the consultants?
Not for us. No.
You want to just, Jim?
The 19th would actually be better because I think the FinCom will be meeting the week after. We typically take that week off for meetings with the departments.
So let's go with the 19th.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Perfect.
Great, that was everything we had tonight. Thank you for the good discussion.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is public comment, and I don't see anybody in the audience, and we don't have anybody on Zoom for public comment. So any further discussion this evening before I call for a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I just had one. I got a call from somebody, this is for the architects, because I'm not an architect. I did get a call from somebody that's been watching our meetings, so people do watch our meetings, and she was just asking about the designs of the building and why the buildings all have these wings, and her questions were, why isn't it more like a rectangle? Is it gonna cost more to build a building with wings? Is it gonna cost more to heat a building? And I said, I am not an architect, I can't tell you those answers, but I did just, talk about the wings and, our idea about the educational pods and that type of thing, but she was asking more from a financial standpoint as building, so I said I would ask at the meeting, so I'm asking at the meeting.
So, a couple of things. One is, we are in a very, very early stage of the process. Like, these are very diagrammatic plans. They have some bubble diagram aspects to them. They reflect some of the visioning process that occurred with the neighborhoods and the pods and the organization of those. Some of the things that influence the exterior design is the orientation of the building relative to solar and natural daylight. The need to provide natural daylight in every single space is important, educational space. So there are many, many factors that play into the organization or the building perimeter and how it looks from above. And so that will continue to morph, and, over the next year, essentially, and in particular, more so over the next 3 to 4 months as we further design, the the Parker site options and the various grade configurations there. So a lot of factors that go into that process.
Thank you, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, for sure.
Hopefully that answers the questions, but thank you.
Yeah, we have found that there can be a slight cost advantage to creating more of a compact building and building up instead of building out, just because in that case, you're doing less of a floor slab. So that's why we tend to, you'll see it as we develop the options, that we're looking to create compact footprints to save on cost and also save the site, create as much green space as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second? I have a second from Matt. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Jim?
Sorry.
Christine?
Aye.
Matt? And Paul? Brandon?
Aye.
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 And Matt? Okay.
All right, thank you.
It's unanimous, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.